You've had a lot of fantastic moments in sports. What's the greatest moment?
I mean, what started everything, you should
Don't
know.
say that. don't say the shot against Georgia.
That was the greatest moment because I think that took me from if I had any doubts about playing on college level or playing with the big guys, that shot gave me the confidence that I belonged where I was, and that it was, if you put your mind to doing whatever you want to do, good things can happen, So before anything else happened with Michael Jordan outside of that game and against you guys, that shot gave me the idea that I could be better than what people think, and I can, surpass any expectations that I may have for myself.
Let me turn it. What's your greatest disappointment in sports?
I haven't had any disappointments. I mean, sports is a tool that teaches, and it teaches you bad things. It can also teach you good things. It's how you perceive those things. I've looked at every experience that I've had, negative and positive, and taken that as a positive. If I wouldn't change anything because I think it would alter some of the other things that happened. So when I look back, I can't say that I've had any bad things happen. Sure, I mean, you don't want bad things to happen, but you deal with bad things. You can't have good or without bad.
When you look back at your career, particularly in the NBA, when you started off in the NBA, you did a lot of exceptional things yourself individually.
Right.
And then later on, 96, 98, you guys start really winning championships. Evaluate the difference in the two.
Well, I even go back further. I mean, you come out of college, you got a lot of gifted talent and some knowledge from your coach, and when you get to the pros, you have to blend that knowledge as well as your individual talent. And you don't know where you stand. I came into the league thinking I was the last on the totem pole. That was my thinking. I didn't come in thinking I was on top. So I had to work my way past all my teammates, and they're all guys within the league, to prove and establish myself as a basketball player. So, I was gifted, I was talented, I knew how to play the game. I didn't know how to play the game on the professional level. I had to learn that. And it took some years of learning and watching Magic Johnson, watching Larry Bird, to see how they can play, impact games when they're not scoring, or they score 4 points, they still make the big plays down the stretch. These are things that you learn in the process of maturing in this league, And as I watched, I began to adapt, and I became more complete. I wasn't one-dimensional. The one thing I never wanted to be was one-dimensional. Everyone saw me as just a scorer, one-on-one player, but I knew I was better than that. I came from a great program at North Carolina, teach you how to do more than just one thing. So I spent the rest of my career trying to evolve as a player, and when our team got to a point where we can contend, I had to assume the leadership role. I had to, other guys had to step forward, and then when we got to that point where we were winning, all the bases and all the foundation has been built. Now it's just a matter of, can you mentally get yourself back each time to challenge yourself more so than the opponent, but yourself, to be that hungry each and every time you stepped on the court. That took some evolving over the course of my career. And when I got to that point, I had no doubts that I couldn't win anytime I stepped on the court, or that I couldn't inspire people to win no matter how many times I stepped on the court.
I tell people that from my observation of you, you're one of the most competitive individuals that I've ever seen. I would imagine if you were playing jacks with somebody, you'd want to kill them. Have you ever met anyone that you felt was as competitive as you are?
No. I just feel that my competitive drive is far greater than anyone else that I've met. I think that I thrive on that. I think that's my biggest motivation in life, is to compete, find different competitions in certain things in life and try to overcome that, be it positive or negative. But I have yet to meet someone who's as competitive as me, and I just feel that much confident about my competitive drive.
I want to ask you some true and false questions. Just three.
Just three, okay.
Just three. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever.
False.
Why?
Because I didn't play against, all the great players prior to me, and I had those other players to influence my game. It's a great honor, don't get me wrong, but I love to have played against Jerry West to determine if I was a better guard than him or Oscar Robertson, but we'll never know.
Michael Jordan, had he stayed with baseball, would be playing in the big leagues now.
I believe that. A lot of people may not, but I believe that. And I gave, for that short amount of time, I gave the dedication to the game of baseball a true effort. It wasn't I wasn't there making money. I wasn't trying to endorse any product. I was truly there for the love of the game. I was up at 6 o'clock with bloody blisters all over my hand, just trying to show that I could play this game. I grew up playing this game. I love baseball. And at the time that I stepped away was a time where, I was being asked to be, being thrown into a situation that involved, baseball strikes and things of that nature. And that was never my intent, So I kindly walked away before I was thrust into that whole event.
Michael Jordan will absolutely never play in another NBA game after this season.
That's a fact. I will not play in another NBA game. I would play basketball. I'm glad you said NBA game. But I got kids who love the game of basketball. I got friends who love to talk trash about me. I got a lot of young kids who love to compete against me at my camp. I'm still going to play the game of basketball. But from an NBA standpoint, that's it. This is the last year.
Let me ask you something, Mike. A lot of kids copy you, and a lot of things that you did were things that people had never seen before. Did you ever practice those things, that creativity, that self-expression that you did, some of those shots you made?
No, I never did. Obviously when you're, as a kid, you want to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to make the game-winning shot, yes. But in terms of the creativeness, I think you've seen it. It has happened in situations where the defense dictates what your reaction may be. But then once you do it once, you have a gifted talent to create. In any other situation, you try to alter, you try to change. But all it was the expansion of Elgin Baylor, Dr. J, all the guys who was creative before you. And I grew up watching them, so the vision was there. It's just the creativity expanded with my talent.
What motivates you, fear or the feeling of wanting to conquer or be successful?
What motivates me is the unknown. No one knows. They can all speculate, but no one really knows. And when you look at my career from high school all the way up through through the pros, no one knew what Michael Jordan was capable of. And myself, I didn't know. But I didn't let that stop me. And I let that motivate me more so than anything. That as long as it's unknown, that means I have a chance. And that's the way I pursued my whole career.
Have you ever gone on the court and been afraid?
No, I've never been afraid. Obviously you're nervous, but afraid means you're not confident in your skills. I have total confidence in my skills, so I'm not afraid.
Of all the rivalries which you've had, which is the toughest one you've ever had as an individual?
As an individual, it was probably the Detroit Pistons. When we were trying to get over that hump, we had the battle. I wouldn't say fear, but intimidation, because to some extent it got away from clean basketball, the basketball that you grew up playing. It got to more where, just one hard foul could end your career, basically. You got to overcome that intimidation factor to keep going to the basket, keep taking that shot, keep aggressively attacking them, And I think as much as it was a battle, it was, once we accomplished that, it was unbelievable success. And no one else could challenge us that way, I didn't think, as a team or even as individuals, to a point where, it bothered us. That was good for us. That was good for me to go through that. And it only made me a tougher player.
How about from a personal standpoint? All players have one player you play against that you say, hey, I enjoy playing against this guy and I'm looking forward to it and I just want to show him.
It changed from player to player. Magic Johnson, obviously, because of his notoriety, and Larry Bird, his notoriety, that we had to get past them. I had to get past them individually before I gain any credibility or can ever get into their ballpark. I had to win championships. I had to win MVPs. I had to make impacts on my team. So that became a challenge for me. Clyde Drexler, who, in essence, we were compared. We were, viewed as being similar. I wanted to show the difference. I felt like it was no comparison. It was no closeness. It was totally a separation between he and I. Every time I battled with that notion in mind, that I wanted to separate myself from him. I mean, we're good friends, and don't get me wrong, but it was just that, how people perceived us in our games. I wanted to excel my game and isolate my game from everybody else. That I was more than just, a few-dimensional. Even when it came to Magic Johnson, Magic Johnson was a crowd pleaser. He was a good offensive player. He was a great motivator. Average defensive player. I wanted to change that. I wanted to take it another step. I wanted to do all those things, that could separate me from Magic Johnson. I'm not saying he wasn't great. He still is great. But we're great in our own different way, and that was motivational for me, and to this day it still is.
You did an awful lot of scoring big game situations. Who did the best job defending Michael Jordan?
During my heyday, they didn't have one man. They had,
There was not one guy that you waited to see coming.
No, I knew Dumars.
Okay.
Positioned himself defensively great, with help. He knew he had Rodney, he had Lambie, he had everybody helping, but he could position himself great with me. And that was a great challenge to try to outthink him because he was a great thinker on defense. He tried to take away some of my advantages. I tried to expand on my advantages, and I tried to attack him where he had weaknesses, utilizing my size, trying to get him in a one-on-one situation before the defense could come and help him. I would say he was the guy that made me or forced me to expand from an offensive standpoint.
How would you have guarded Michael Jordan?
I made him shoot the jump shot. Even though, when he drives, he penetrates, he can involve a lot of other people. If he stands out and shoots the jump shot, you only got one person you got to worry about. And I don't think he can score 100 points. I don't think.
I do. What impact does your statistical place in the NBA have on you?
Well, that never drove me. The stats only add up when you put forth the effort and you don't worry about it. Good things happen to those people that work hard. If I sit here and play for the stats, I would have never retired in '93. Or I still probably be chasing Wilt Chamberlain's all-time, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar all-time scoring lead. That doesn't drive me. It defines to some extent for people who don't know me or, 20 years from now would never know who Michael Jordan really is. But based on the stats, he must have been pretty decent. Those are only ways that I look at stats. Other than that, it's all about winning championships and winning. Stats that matter to me is the games that we win and the rings that you collect.
Mike, did you achieve what you intended to achieve with the Wizards?
I think I've achieved it only if the players take what I've done over the last couple of years and move it in the right direction. What we have done is brought hope to the city of Washington. And I think that winning and finishing out this year with a good playoff run, I think shows if you believe in something, you put forth the effort. It's not about age, it's not about ability. It's about believing that you can come together as 12 to 15 man team and put forth the effort, fulfill a role, and go out there and play hard. Good things are happening.
You have sons that play.
Right.
Were they critical or positive about your performance when you came back because they were old enough to see you play?
Yeah.
Was that fun?
It is fun. Because I think it's, they critique with not really knowing but gathering information for what I tell them, and they have their favorite players, which in essence I have to compete against those players, and I find myself, if I have a good game against one of those players, believe me, I'm going to let him know it, as much as he's going to probably make excuses why the other player or the player that I'm playing against didn't have a great game against me. But that's fun. From a father, that's great to have conversation about your game with your son.
When you see young kids talk about Michael and how Michael did things, and I want to get up early in the morning and play, I want to leave the gym late and play, I want to work, what impact does that have on you?
It's truly inspiration that, my love has been seen, my love has been passed on. My obligation to the game of basketball has been fulfilled because someone did that to me. In turn, I'm doing that for other players and for the game of basketball.
I look at yourself and Jerry Rice. Have you guys extended the life expectancy of an athlete?
Yeah, I think we have. I think there's some truth to that. I think two things have to come in place. You gotta have a true love for what you're doing, and you have to be very lucky in terms of health. You know, if you have both of them, then you can extend, you can play as long as you want, because you gotta put forth the effort. I mean, when you look at Jerry, Jerry's a great friend. I think our careers parallel a lot. He's a couple years older than me. I remind him of that. But his desire to be the best at what he does keeps him pushing, not just during the season, but during the off season, or physically preparing himself for a season, and mentally finding ways to challenge himself, or listen to the naysayers as motivation, things of that nature, and staying healthy. If you can do that, then yeah, you can extend the longevity of someone's career. But if you take it for granted, you can't. I don't think either one of us take what we have done and what we love for granted.
When did you first realize that no matter where you went, what you would do, you were known? And what impact did that have on your lifestyle?
I started taking trips with Nike. Nike took me over to Europe to try to, to push the shoes and push the brand. And as I was over there, more and more people became aware of who I was, not because of the shoes, but because of the way that I was playing. And at the same time, the league has started to expand and try to get the game of basketball, NBA basketball, worldwide. And the Dream Team, blew it wide open. I think that was when, I couldn't go anywhere in the world and walk the streets. I used to could go to Paris or Milan and someone like that and just walk the streets and no one would know. I can sit outside and, with my family and friends and whatever and just enjoy it. But ever since, the Dream Team, things have just totally gone berserk. I mean, no matter where I go in Europe, it's no different than the States.
How difficult has it been being Michael Jordan?
It's been difficult, but it's got its advantages and disadvantages. I mean, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages no matter how you look at it. And the inspiration that I try to pass on, the admiration that I gain back, I wouldn't give that away for nothing.
As you leave the game, what message do you want to leave to young athletes that are coming on?
Be true to the game, because the game will be true to you. If you try to shortcut the game, then the game's going to shortcut you. If you put forth the effort, good things will be bestowed upon you. That's truly about the game. And in some ways, that's about life too.